Hello and good morning. Today we will continue the Cold War era, the first chapter from your contemporary war politics from your class 12 textbook. Today we will discuss the conflict that occurs during the Cold Wars and the superpower enter into a treaties to ban the use of nuclear weapon. So the two superpower will directly or indirectly engage or involved in confrontations for confrontation in a war like Korean War, Afghanistan War, Vietnam War, Cuban Missile Crisis, Berlin War. So, in order to demonstrate their superiority, both the superpower constant competition with each other to win the support of other countries all over the world. Now, these supporter nations will providing what? Now, these supporter nations will providing what? Nations will give an economic help, military help also, and also strands of friendship against their neighbors in their respective region with whom they had competing interests. Now, both the superpower have shown their masters in the war. In fact, they will determining their regional politics and war politics to a large extent in all the regions. In one of the statements says, when the US sneezes, the entire world catches the core. So you can imagine how influential they will in the global political level. Now in the process, both the superpower will also enhancing or they will increasing their military capacity and started to build their military bases in the territory of their supporting nations or smaller nations who well aligning with their ideology interests. In this game, both the supporting nation and the superpowers of a particular bloc gain from association with each other, and this relationship between supporting nation and superpower will based on their mutual interests. And this began the arm race, weapon race between US and USSR, started to stockpiling manufacturing more and more weapons and increase their military expenditures budgets, and therefore they also in return both the superpower also during the arena of a Cold War, they also involved in large or medium scales of violence which will happen, and this superpower both of them will directly or indirectly involved or engage in this conflict, but fortunately enough none of them came out openly or face of each other and did not create condition for another world war. Why did this condition for another world war? Why did this happen? Why do not create cross each other? And the reason is that because the images of devastation that was caused by the atomic bomb were witnessed by the entire world, including the two superpowers as well. And after seeing this scale or magnitude of the Second World War, nobody can or dare to make a mistake to put themselves as a target for other power, because both of them knew that they are under the attack. On the 6th of August 1945, as you know, the uranium bomb, the atomic bomb of 20 kiloton was exploded 850 feet above air over Hiroshima and Nagasaki for a maximum effect. So therefore, both of them are somehow detailed and not engage in direct conflict. So let's begin with the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a prolonged struggle, nationalist forces in Vietnam and the US forces on the other hand. The war almost fought between the two groups. One group was North Vietnam, supported by Soviet Union, and the other communist allies of the Soviet Union, and the other groups in the confrontation was the government of South Vietnam, supported by the United States and anti-communist allies along with the United States. The nationalist forces were attempting to unify the country of Vietnam under the communist government. On the other hand, United States, with the aid of South Vietnamese government, attempting to the spread of communism in the region. This war was a part of containment strategy with the clear aim of stopping the spread of communism. Now, in fact, there was anti-Vietnam war that happens in the Western world. Anti-Vietnam war, particularly in the United States and major countries of Europe during the 1960s, including Germany, France, and the UK. So, this war was a part of containment strategy with the clear aim of stopping the spread of communism. And another war, similarly, like the USA, the Soviet Union also invaded Afghanistan, like the US did for the Vietnam. Soviet Union invaded during the war, the years 1979 by sending its military troops to Afghanistan. Now, why did it did so? The Soviet Union intervened in support of the communist government of Afghanistan. This government was in conflict with anti-communist Muslim guerrilla, and this is called as Afghan War, which continued from 1978 till 1992. And the Soviet Union troops remained in Afghanistan till the end of February of 1989 for a long time. Now this even began a brutal, detail-long attempt by Russia to reduce the Afghan, and they wanted to maintain friendly and socialist, and because of Afghan was a neighbors with Russia. Now both the allies are constant flow of supporting and helping their groups in their respective ideologies, involving conflict all over the world, as you can see in these two cases clearly. So therefore, the two sides understood that war might occur in spite of restraint. Either side might miscalculate the number of weapons in the possession of the other side. They might misunderstand the intention of the other side. Besides, what if there was a nuclear accident? What would happen if someone fired off a nuclear weapon by mistake, or if a soldier mischievously shot off a weapon deliberately to start a war? What if an incident occurs with a nuclear weapon? How would the leader of the country know it was an accident and not an act of sabotage by the enemy, or that a missile had not landed from the other side? And in time, therefore, the US and USSR decided to collaborate in limiting or eliminating certain kinds of nuclear and non-nuclear weapons. A stable balance of weapons, they decided, could be maintained through arms control. Starting in the 1960s, the two sides signed 3 significant agreements within a decade. What are those? Let us see one by one. This will the Limited Test Ban Treaty, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. So this nuclear limited test ban treaty is a treaty signed between the two superpower in order to limit the test of nuclear in the atmosphere, in the air, and then in the under the oceans and waters. And then this treaty was signed by the US, UK and USSR in Moscow on 5th August 1963. Then Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) was signed, and according to this NPT, so non-nuclear possessing states are not allowed to acquire nuclear weapons or acquire to manufacture nuclear, and nuclear weapons possessing states are not allowed to supply to non-nuclear weapon state. So until the 1st January of 1956. So here there are 5 nuclear weapon states who signed this NPT. That is US, United States, USSR, Russia, Britain, France and China. And then another treaty was signed, that is SOR 1, that is Strategic Arm Limitation Talk, and Strategic Arm Limitation Talk 2 also was signed. And after that, Treaty on the Limitation of Anti-Ballistic Missile System (ABM) Treaty was signed. And then Strategic Arm Reduction Treaties, that means START 1 and START 2 was signed by senior George Bush, President of the United States of America, the then President of the United States of America, and Mikhail Gorbachev, of the President of the leader of the Russia, Soviet Union, in order to contain the manufacturing of arms weapon. In 1947, American President Harry Truman put forward doctrine about the containment of communism. And that is how we can see the conflict occurs during the Cold War, and the superpower enter into a treaties to ban the use of nuclear weapons by the grace of God. So the Third World War is not being occurs, and still the war is being safe. So for today, let us